Well, it's no joke, though I might be sometimes considered a bad joke. Here it is, Wednesday, April 1st, 2020 version of PK's PSA Pastoral Service Announcement coming to you almost live from, well, here we are in the child care area, New Creation Church. I'm Pastor Ken. This is beautiful Ottawa, Ohio. We're broadcasting from, and as always, we'll wrap up this here PSA with a little inspiration entitled, Now a Word from Our Scriptures. You know, it may not be in our too far ago distant memory, but it wasn't all that long ago when people were making fun of this public health threat, calling the coronavirus COVID-19. Remember that? I mean, they were making jokes about the adult beverage alongside of the virus, drawing cartoons lampooning the shortage of basic necessities like toilet paper and sanitizer. Almost at that time, there were some laughing in the face of it. You know, touching all kinds of things, give the impression it must be a hoax or overreaction, paranoia, or simply one big conspiracy void of facts and data and truth. Now, don't get me wrong, especially if you've watched any of these PSAs in the last couple of weeks, I'm not some relentless proponent of doom and gloom. But we do need to attend to our sanity, our mental health and all. And we need to find still, in the midst of this, occasions to smile and laugh, I think. You know, it's important psychologically and to be sure physiologically too. There are consequences at stake if we're not able to joke or laugh or find humor or let out a chuckle or two along the way. I'm periodically reminded of how there is this thing called, you heard of these, endorphins that get released from our brains when we laugh with friends? Some call it the brain's feel-good medicine. I mean, who isn't praying that we don't run out of or have a shortage of this medicine from the drugstore of life? Now, I'm no doctor, but I have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express a time or two, and I would seriously, pun intended, recommend you having at least a daily dose of endorphins. There's evidence, get this, talk about just the right medicine, it increases one's ability to tolerate pain. Plenty of that going around these days, almost more than we can stand. They say it gives a kind of a natural buzz. How about that? And you know, we can get endorphins from other means too, but I'll let you figure out what those are. But in case you're wondering, I also read that you can get endorphins with a touch or massage or something like that. Fortunately, of course, we know that there ain't going to be much of that going around. So we got to fill in the gaps with some laughs instead. Now, laughter may not be the absolute best medicine, but it's right there near the top in my book. When it comes to the natural medication of endorphins, we don't even need a drug plan in the health insurance policy. Don't need that. We can all afford it. And the generic version is really good too. So I'd say, next chance you get, scroll down in those Netflix or Amazon Prime videos to the comedy section and pick out a few laughable ones to watch. Or maybe do a few of those animated kids videos like Shrek or The Incredibles. My grandkids love them. Or find a YouTube of your favorite comedian and binge watch all you can. You know, many of us have more time on our hands than we ever imagined we would. So hook up with Zoom or Skype or Blue Jean or Duo or one of those other video conferencing formats and with some of your family and friends and put into the agenda, not just the heavy stuff, put in the agenda some storytelling, some laughable stories that you can reminisce about. You'll be glad you did, and so will your body and your mind and your spirit. Of course, this is no time for just fun and games. I know that, you know that. I'm in no way making light of the tragic and devastating consequences we're all facing through this pandemic. We as individuals and as a country and heck as the planet Earth are being burdened beyond imagination by this imposing force that's imposing its will upon innocent lives and leaving in its wake an increasing list of casualties and even victims. Yes, I'm picking up a newspaper every day, checking online just like you are. There's no getting around those headlines that say things like, hopes dashed, help us, more dangerous than expected, where we got to fill in the blank is canceled or postponed, or such and such a company or program or organization is losing umpteen millions of dollars every day, or where these many deaths have been recorded and these many people are being forced onto the unemployment lines, or these are the new cases of those who've contracted the virus. So yeah, I know. And yes, we will continue to step up our efforts to slowly slow the snowball, if you will, in the midst of the springtime from gaining any more momentum than it already has. And that's part of the reason why I'm working to squeeze in some quality time for laughter. And maybe you should too. Not to deny this reality that we're all going through, but rather to continue to validate its reality and our need to find some ways to get through the anguish and the pain and the fearful uncertainty and even the weirdness of it all. You know, did I mention, speaking of endorphins, that God's got a sense of humor too? Most basic reason I know that has nothing to do with me staying at a hotel somewhere, but because I've read the book. And the book, well, begins with this story about how it is that God created us and we're created in the image of God. Stands to reason, if you think about it, that if we can experience hilarity and laughter and we're made in God's image, then God's got to have a sense of humor too. Assuming you're willing to acknowledge God as the creator of all that exists, you want a really good laugh? All you need to do is go to the zoo. Take a look at God creating hippopotamus and platypus and giraffes. Well, sorry about that. I guess you actually can't go to the zoo these days, but you know, hopefully it'll be opened again and you can laugh while you're there. You know, we read in that Old Testament book called Ecclesiastes in chapter 3, you know, where it says for everything there's a season and all that under heaven. Well, one of those seasons is a time to laugh. Maybe you ought to look at Proverbs 17:22 reminds us that a cheerful heart is good medicine, long before they even knew about what endorphins were. Downcast spirit, on the other hand, dries up the bones. So it's a time for laughter, even in the midst of all we're enduring. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. Until next time, remember, fear not tomorrow. God's already there. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay praying, and I'd add today, stay laughing. And stay faithful, my friends, and Christ be with you.